This is our project for today. I hope you enjoy the video. It's a little bit on the long side because there's lots and lots of moving parts to her. She is a doll. She's an inner journal doll. She has her journal that goes right here in her backpack. Inner journal tag. This is an old tarp or drop cloth off my floor. Lots of fun stitching. These wings are napkins. Photo off the internet. Hand stitching. I had a blast. Okay, good morning. It is dark o'clock here, and I'm on my second cup of coffee, of course. I'm going to roughly draw out the doll. I do have an intention, so we will see how that goes. This is a drop cloth off my floor that I have dried many things on. So it already has some fun color on it. I'm going to go ahead and cut the doll out. I know she's going to have a pocket, so I went ahead and just tore a pocket out. This is the yummy side that's going to show. This is the yummy side that's going to show. So we'll put those out like that in the pocket. I'm bringing Distress Spray Ink Fossilized Amber, and I'm going to spray the cloth, get some more yumminess on it, and let that dry. I'm bringing in this yummy stencil, all my scraps, Van Dyke Brown Hue, a makeup sponge, and I'm going to add some fun stuff to the fabric. I have a little bit of this Cattail Copper Brown by Lindy's. Not enough to spray, so I'm going to grab a brush and splatter it on. I took a face off the internet and printed it on a piece of paper that already had numbers on it. So that's kind of a fun effect for the face. Now I'm playing with different images, and I'm going to tear them. And if I tear the piece toward myself, I don't have this white edge. So if I tear the piece toward myself, I eliminate that white edge. And that might be a fun piece to put on there. So these are pieces that I've chosen to put on her, on the front of her. And so what I'm going to do is cover everything with Mod Podge to give it some sturdiness. And we'll let those dry. So I kind of like that piece there with her face on that. That's kind of fun. And then I like the idea of this being a crown up here. These can be hand sewn on as patches. Later, I want to kind of get the doll constructed. I know I want her to have some simple arms. I love all the fraying, so I keep all the strings. Going to be a lot of hand stitching on this, I can tell. I know that I want a pocket on the back to hold the inner journal, so I'm going to go ahead and sew that on. I will stitch across the top. I just use a straight stitch, nothing fancy. Straight stitch across the top, and then I'm going to sew this onto the back side of the doll. I have the pocket sewn on. I'm going to bring my awl in, poke a hole in that fabric. I fly by the seat of my pants, so there's never really a plan. So I just kind of have to follow the lead of the art piece. So I'm going to install this eyelet into that hole with my crocodile. So I have the eyelet installed. We'll hang a tag or something from that later on. I'll put Mod Podge on the back of these papers so that they are nice and strong when I sew on them. I have this piece of fabric laying on the table. I'll sew that on. These are the arms. They will go like this. Maybe a button there. I don't know. We shall see. Okay, let's look and see what we've done. I took the arms and just did some squiggles on that. And some lines on that one. They will go on her body like that. I took some scraps, leaving them just grungy like that. Created a crown. That will go there. I'm going to sew the crown on, and then I'm going to sew her face onto the piece. Then I can tell where other things are going to go. I have her crown on and her head on, and then she said, well, wait, I want a flower too. So I found a little flower, fabric flower, and I will sew that on. All right, this is when all bets are off. I'm just going to start adding some things to the doll. My intention is to have some kind of a pocket there. We'll see. Maybe a little circle here. Don't know. So I'm just going to play. I'm going to sew her together now on the exterior. I will leave a gap so that I can fill her with the polyfill. All right, I have everything sewn on that I'm going to machine stitch anyway. I ended up leaving that as a pocket, so that's kind of fun. Some lace hanging off, lace hanging off. There's going to be a lot of hand stitching. The back is pretty plain. For now, I did leave the opening right here so that I could stuff her. And I'm going to bring in a black crayon and go around the edge and grunge her up a little bit. Just because in my world, there cannot be enough grunge. I have her nice and grungy. I'm bringing in some polyfill, and I'm going to put it in that hole and stuff my doll. All right, I have her all stuffed. I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and sew that seam up. Now I'm going to bring in some thread, buttons, washers, lace, all kinds of things, and just embellish her some more. Have fun with her. All right, I have a steel stamping set of letters. I have some pewter metal. I'm going to cut a piece of this pewter metal. Around the corners. This is pretty soft. I have a wooden block here. And my little hammer, and I'm going to start hammering Inner Journal on the metal. I'll lay my letter down. I don't care if it's in a straight line or not. Then I'll pop it with my hammer. And I will do that for the entire words. I have Inner Journal stamped there. I'm bringing in some Van Dyke Brown hue. I think I'll make that a little bit smaller. Bring in some E6000 and a thin piece of cardboard. I'll put some E6000 on the back of this metal tag. Place my metal tag with E6000 on it. onto the thin cardboard, let that dry, and then cut my tag off. I just did that for stability because the pewter's pretty soft. And there's my inner journal tag. I'll bring in my crocodile, pop a hole here, install an eyelet there. This is some frayed stuff that's on my desk. I'm going to use that to install the tag. There's her tag. One more thing I want to do to the doll, and then we'll get to the book. She looks amazing. We're going to get a little bit of shine on this. This is a napkin with a butterfly on it. Normally there are a couple of plies to a napkin. So what I do is I just take, nice fingers. I take some Mod Podge, get my fingers sticky, hit the corner of that napkin, and then it usually pulls apart. So I just want one layer of the napkin. I have a piece of glass here. That's actually what's making this shine. And I have my butterfly, one butterfly, that's all I'm going to use. I'm grabbing my Mod Podge and I'm putting a generous amount of Mod Podge on the glass. Place the butterfly napkin down on the Mod Podge and put a generous coat of Mod Podge on top of the butterfly napkin. And we will let that dry. Now we're going to create the inner journal. And I have, I think, 8 pieces of thin cardboard. I'm going to put book text or underpants on them. And I will just take a page, put some Mod Podge on it, lay the cardboard down, Mod Podge, and lay another book page on top and let that dry. I'll do that to all the book pages. When the pages are dry, I'm going to break off the extra page. I prefer a ragged edge, but you can cut that off, of course. And I will do that to every page. I have all my pages ready. I'm going to bring in some gesso, put some gesso on a page, put gesso on a page, take these 2 pages, smash them together, pull them apart, creating some beautiful texture. I will do that to the front side of all the pages and let those dry. All right, the pages are gessoed and dried. I'm bringing in mustard StazOn, and I will rub it on the pages. So I have the mustard on the gesso, which is gorgeous. I'm bringing in the StazOn Timber Brown. I use StazOn because it doesn't move around. It's a permanent ink. I can blend it while it's still wet, but after that it's pretty stable. So bring that around the edges, and I will do that on all the pages. I chose the brown because it's not as harsh as the black. I usually use the black, but the brown is good on these pages with the brown that's on the doll. Pretty close, good match. This is the title page. This is off her hand, her arm. I'm gonna sew that on the front of the book. And then I'm gonna get my typewriter out, my old typewriter. I'll use this old blank page in the old typewriter to write out the things that I want to put in the book. All right, I have everything written out on the old typewriter. I'm going to bring in a ruler and tear those out. I prefer tearing than cutting. The tearing edges glue down much nicer than a cut edge. So I will tear these out. I have everything all printed out and torn into strips. I'm going to go ahead and bind this with the Coptic binding. I have a video on the Coptic binding. You can watch that if you're interested in how to do that. I'm not going to do that on screen today. I'm bringing in the Timber Brown, a little bit on my finger, kind of grunge up the words just a bit. All right, I'm bringing the butterfly back in. I had it under my desk to dry, dragged my foot across it, so I removed some of the butterfly wing. I'm okay with that. We'll probably just be using this portion anyway. We shall see. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the napkin to separate from the glass. There, you can see how the napkin separates off the glass. And carefully remove it. Once you loosen the edge, the butterfly, or whatever you're playing with, will lift off quite easily. Isn't that fun? What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the wing in. I'm going to keep the wing, even though it's wonky. I'm going to keep it wonky like that. I'm going to take a wing and I'm going to put it on the side here, take it to my sewing machine, and sew that wing on here, on her little side. One wing on each side, of course. All right, I have her wonky wings sewn on her. I'm going to flip her over and just trim off the edges that don't need to be there. Okay, here she is. She's amazing. I love her wonky wing on this side. Beaded necklace here, washer, hand stitching, some beads on her crown, floppy lace, little pocket that I sewed shut. Little arms, I tapered the arms because they just looked too full before. Gave her a little flower. More hand stitching. This is the metal tag that says Inner Journal. The Inner Journal with the questions or the comments or places for people to write things. They can write on there and then scribble it out with gesso. So fun. This goes in her pocket. And she is ready to take someone on an inner journal. Your turn. Go create, go play, go have fun.